You know, every one of us has a story we tell ourselves, a story that keeps us safe. It's the story that says, stay where you are, don't jump, don't risk the fall. But what we never realize is that every story worth telling starts with a risk. The world doesn't remember the ones who stayed in line, who played it safe, who colored inside the edges. It remembers the ones who leaned forward, looked over the edge, and said, maybe, just maybe, there's something more out there. See, we crave comfort because comfort feels like control. We build walls and call them plans. We stack routines and call them stability. But deep down, we know better. We know that every time we've grown, it's been when the ground shook beneath our feet. Risk. It's the currency of meaning. You can't buy a good story with comfort. I remember the first time I realized that. I was standing at a crossroads, not on a road, but in my own head. One path looked easy, predictable. The other, it was foggy, unknown. And something in me, something wild, said, go on, step into it. That step changed everything. Now, I'm not saying risk is easy. It never is. Risk doesn't come with guarantees. It comes with questions. But it's those questions that shape us. That's where we find the story. Because without risk, there is no tension. Without tension, there is no transformation. And without transformation, there is no story worth telling. So, if you're sitting there wondering why your story feels quiet, why your days all sound the same, maybe it's time to stop searching for safety and start searching for stakes. Beat, smile. No risk, no story. It's that simple. And it's that terrifying. But that's what makes it beautiful.
The moment always comes. The moment when standing still hurts more than moving forward. When the what if starts screaming louder than the maybe not. That's when you know it's time. Time to leap. Time to leave the familiar shore and swim towards something you can't even see yet. Now the leap, it never feels graceful. It's not a cinematic slow motion jump. It's messy. It's loud. It's full of doubt. You'll feel your heart catch in your throat, and every fear you've buried will start clawing its way back up. But that's the sign you're alive. That's your soul saying, you're moving again. I've taken a few of those leaps, and every time, right before I jumped, there was a voice that whispered, you're not ready. And maybe I wasn't. Maybe we never are. Because readiness is a myth we tell ourselves to delay the inevitable. You don't get ready before the leap, you get ready because of it. You can study the jump all you want. You can measure the distance, calculate the angles, memorize the landing spot. But the truth? The leap teaches you more than any calculation ever could. When you jump, you discover two things, your limits and your wings. Some days, you'll hit the ground hard, and that's okay. That's part of it. That's part of your story. The risk isn't about never falling, it's about finding out what you're made of after you do. Because when you leap, you learn something that can't be taught in books or comfort zones. You learn that courage doesn't roar. Sometimes, courage is a whisper that says, try again. Pause, breathes, the room quiets. And here's the thing. Every great story you've ever loved started with a leap. The hero who left home, the dreamer who defied the odds, the one who dared to say, "I don't know what's out there, but I'm going." That's what makes the story worth telling. That's what makes the ending worth fighting for. So if you're standing on that edge tonight and your knees are shaking, your mind is racing, and you're wondering if you should jump, remember this: the story doesn't start until you do. No risk, no story.
You've been down there for a while, face in the dirt, heartbeat slow, wondering if anyone even noticed you fell. But that's the thing about the ground. It gives you time to listen. And when you finally stop fighting the silence, you start hearing something else. A pulse, a whisper, your own voice, quiet but steady. It says, "Get up." Getting up isn't glamorous. It's not fireworks and applause. It's slow, it's heavy, and sometimes you don't even know why you're doing it. But every inch you rise is proof that the story isn't over. Resilience isn't about bouncing back to where you were. It's about building something new from where you landed. It's about standing taller because you've been bent, seeing clearer because you've cried. You start to realize the fall didn't break you. It broke what didn't belong. The fear, the ego, the need to control everything. Now what's left is you. Raw, honest, real.
That's the person who rebuilds. Not the perfect one, the present one. The one who knows what it feels like to lose and still say, "I'm here." You start small. One choice, one call, one breath. And little by little, momentum returns. You find yourself laughing again. Not because it's easy, but because you remember what it feels like to be alive. People might ask you, "How did you do it?" And you'll smile because you know there's no shortcut. There's only showing up every single day. That's what rising strong really is. It's the daily act of defiance against doubt. It's faith dressed as grit. It's risk reborn as resilience. You see, we think strength is about never falling, but strength, real strength, is about standing back up with a softer heart. It's the power to forgive, to keep believing, to keep risking, even when you've been burned. Because if you can rise after you've fallen, you've proven the one thing that fear can't take from you, your will. And that's the foundation of every great story. So tonight, if you've been through the fall, if you've been cracked open and you're wondering if it was worth it, know this: you're not broken, you're becoming. No risk, no story, but with every rise comes a new chapter.
When we talk about risk, we often talk about our story, the one we're writing right now. But there's another story, the one we leave behind. See, every risk we take becomes a ripple. It touches people we'll never meet. The choice you make tonight, the leap you take tomorrow, might light a fire in someone you'll never know existed. That's legacy. Not statues or headlines, ripples. When you risk something real, your comfort, your certainty, your pride, you give permission for others to do the same. That's how courage multiplies. Think about the people who shaped you, The ones whose names you still remember, whose words show up in your head when life gets heavy. Chances are, they weren't perfect. They stumbled. They risked. And because they did, you learned how to stand. So ask yourself, what story will they tell about you? When the lights go down and the credits roll, will your story whisper, "They played it safe"? Or will it roar, "They lived all in"? Now, I'm not talking about fame. I'm talking about impact. The kind that happens quietly. A child watching you chase a dream. A friend finding courage because you didn't quit. A stranger who sees your risk and decides to take their own. Every act of risk is an act of generosity. It says, "Here's my proof. It can be done." And maybe that's what we're really here for. It lives stories that make it a little easier for the next person to try. We're temporary, all of us. But the stories we live, the chances we take, they outlive us. They travel farther than we ever could. So take the risk. Tell the story. Leave the ripple. Because one day, someone will be standing where you are now, wondering if they should leap. And your story will whisper back, "Yes, jump." No risk, no story. You know what's strange? The further you walk with risk, the quieter it gets. At first, it's chaos, noise, motion, adrenaline. Then one day you wake up and realize you're not chasing certainty anymore. You're comfortable in the unknown. Uncertainty stops being the enemy. It starts being the proof that you're alive. See, the reward of risk isn't safety, it's freedom. Freedom from the idea that you have to know everything before you begin. Freedom from the fear that a wrong step ruins the story. When you live with risk long enough, you stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What if I never try?" You stop needing to control the ending and start trusting the journey because you've seen enough to know the best chapters were the ones you never planned. That's the real reward. The peace that lives inside uncertainty. The laughter that shows up right after a storm. The quiet pride in knowing you were brave enough to show up, even when nothing was guaranteed. You start to see beauty in the unfinished. You stop waiting for the map and start writing your own. You realize the story was never about the destination, it was always about the courage to keep turning the page. And one day, when you look back, you'll notice something. The moments that scared you most became the moments you tell with the most light in your eyes. The risks that once shook your hands now make your voice steady when you share them. That's the gift uncertainty gives you. A life that's not just survived, but felt. So if you find yourself lost tonight, if the path ahead is fog and guesswork, don't curse it. Smile, because that's how you know you're still in the story. The risk never really ends. It just changes shape. And every time you walk into it, it hands you a little more truth, a little more peace, a little more you. That's the reward of uncertainty. It doesn't promise you control. It promises you a story worth remembering. No risk, no story.
People hear a message like this and think risk is a single moment, one leap, one decision, one line you cross. But it's not. Risk is a daily thing. It's woven into every choice you make when no one's watching. Every morning you wake up, you're handed a blank page. And the question isn't, will something happen today? It's, will I be awake enough to live it? Living your story isn't about chasing mountains every day. It's about showing up, honest, open, willing to learn. It's calling someone you've avoided. It's saying, I love you before it's too late. It's admitting, I don't know, but I'll try. That's what risk looks like most days. Not skydiving, not quitting your job, but choosing truth over comfort, connection over ego, faith over fear. And here's the secret, the small risks build the muscle for the big ones. Every time you speak your truth, every time you keep your word, every time you take the harder path when no one's clapping, you're strengthening the part of you that knows how to jump when it really matters. You start realizing that courage isn't a weekend event, it's a lifestyle. It's a quiet, steady decision to live awake. So how do you live this story every day? You pay attention. You stay curious. You keep listening to that small voice that says, there's more. And when fear shows up, and it will, you invite it to walk beside you instead of running from it. Because fear isn't the enemy. It's a compass. It points to what matters. And if you live that way long enough, you'll look back and realize you didn't just take risks, you became one. A walking, breathing invitation for others to live bravely too. That's the kind of story that changes a room. That's the kind of life that outlives its owner. So live it. Not someday, not when it's safe, now. Every sunrise is a new page. And the world doesn't need more spectators, it needs storytellers. No risk, no story.
Every leap comes with gravity. You take that step into the unknown, and sooner or later, you fall. No one likes to talk about that part. The movies cut it out. The highlight reels skip over it. But the truth? The fall is the classroom. You hit the ground, and everything shakes. The plans you made, they scatter. The people you thought would catch you, they vanish. And the silence that follows, it's deafening. That's the moment when the lights go out inside you for a while. When you ask, what was I thinking? Why did I ever jump? But here's the funny thing about the ground. It's honest. It doesn't lie to you. It tells you exactly who you are when the spotlight fades. Lying there, breathless, you start to remember things. What matters? Who matters? Why you started. That's the lesson. Hiding in the fall. You see, risk isn't just about climbing higher. It's about learning how to rise when you're flat on your back. Because sooner or later, life will knock you there. Not to punish you, but to polish you. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. It's the bruise that proves you were in the fight. It's the dirt under your fingernails that says, I showed up. Every scar you carry is an autograph from life itself. Proof you played the game. Proof you didn't watch from the stands. So when you fall, and you will, Don't rush to erase it. Sit with it. Listen. Because inside that silence is a teacher that comfort never hired. And when you finally stand back up, you'll realize something profound. The fall didn't break your story. It made it worth telling. Because without the fall, there's no depth. Without the lesson, there's no wisdom. Without the bruise, there's no proof you were alive. So don't hide your failures. Frame them. Don't curse your scars. Name them. Because every mark, every stumble, every fall is the chapter that someone else will need to hear someday. And that's the truth about risk. It's not about the leap. It's about what you learn when gravity reminds you you're human. No risk, no story.
When the lights go down and the applause fades, you can finally hear the truth underneath all the noise. It's quiet, simple. You did something real. You risked. You lived. You wrote another page. That's all a story ever asks of us, to stay awake long enough to notice it unfolding. Because meaning isn't a finish line, it's a moment like this one, the breath before the next step, the space between the heartbeats. We spend so much of life chasing the big scenes, the triumphs, the perfect endings, that we forget the story is being written in the small ones, the drive home, the look exchanged, the simple act of trying again. That's where risk lives now, not in the leap, but in the living. Choosing to show up even when no one's watching, choosing to be present even when it's hard. So when you leave tonight, don't wait for the next big moment. Make the small ones matter. Because someday, someone will listen to the story of your life and realize the bravest thing you ever did was simply keep showing